So, like we were talking about before the meeting started, it's the season of unity. We just had Noble Jew Ali's birthright celebration. So, we in that season. So today's demonstration, I wanted to build around that. So before we get into what I was going to get into, I want to analyze the Circle Seven and talk about it from a perspective that I don't really hear too much. So when we're looking at the Circle Seven, we're looking at a sign of mastery, the seal, the logos. We have four openings, which symbolize the four gates, the four major seasons. In these four gates, you're looking at within each gate, you have three signs. You have three energies, three energies from three ruling planets every gate that influence that 90-degree period or that season. The energies are from that season. Four gates plus three signs, you have a seven. All right, because at first it's just 12. These are 12 constellations, 12 energies. But once you understand the as above, so below, and having this physical experience, you can understand the energies and how to utilize them. First, knowing yourself, getting your own chart done so you can see your impulses and things of that nature. This is the whole know thyself measure. Um, so when you display mastery of not only the four gates and the three energies of each gate, that's the Circle Seven. Four gates plus three signs. 4 plus 3 is 7. So when you see the seal now, when you go back to that, it's no longer 12 constellations. That's the four gates is still there, the four major seasons are still there. But now it's a 7. It's no longer 12 constellations. So this represents the master of the higher self, lower self. I mean, that and the as above, so below principle as well that we're talking about cosmologically, what's in the heavens is connected to man. And man's job is to ascend to the pinnacle while he's in the flesh. So I was inspired to speak on that. So let's go into a little bit about Noble Jew Ali. This particular Circle Seven had this whoever published this. They had an introduction I've never seen before, so I wanted to go into that. Noble Jew Ali, the prophet and founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America, to redeem the people from their sinful ways. Noble Jew Ali, January 8th, 1886, transition July 20th, 1929, was an American who founded the Moorish Science Temple of America. In 1913, he founded the Canaanite Temple in Newark, New Jersey, before relocating to Chicago, where he gained a following of thousands of people. Following the murder of a rival Moorish Science Temple leader, Jew Ali was arrested but never charged and sent to jail. He died in 1929, shortly after being released. Several details of Jew Ali's early life are uncertain, as true information became mixed with that of legend by his devout followers. He is believed to have been born Timothy Drew on January 8th, 1886 in North Carolina. His spouse were Pearl Drew Ali and Mary Drew Ali. Drew Ali reported during his travels in Egypt, he met a high priest of Egyptian magic. In one version of Drew Ali's biography, the leader saw him as a reincarnation of the founder. In others, he claims that the priests considered him a reincarnation of Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, and other religious prophets. According to the biography, the high priest trained Ali in mysticism and gave him a lost section of the Quran. This text came to be known as the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, and then the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It is also known as the Circle 7 Quran because of its cover, which features a red 7 surrounded by a blue circle. In early 1929, following a conflict over funds, Claude Green Bay, the business manager of the Chicago Temple No. 1, split from the Moorish Science Temple of America. He declared himself Grand Sheikh and took a number of members with him. On March 15th, Green Bay was stabbed to death at the Unity Hall of the Moorish Science Temple of America on India Avenue in Chicago. And here's a picture of the convention. So especially, brothers, sisters that might not know about what this picture is. It's a convention that was held by the Moors, Moorish Science Temple of America. People that were in attendance were congressmen, mayors. In this picture, it's a person that the Moors put into office as a mayor. And in this picture, Louis B. Anderson. No, I'm sorry, Oscar the Priest. So in this picture, Oscar the Priest is a Republican candidate for Congress. So he's a congressman in this picture. But when you do the knowledge, when he was a mayor in Chicago, he was in a jurisdiction where it was like thousands of Moors. That was the majority of people that was in Chicago at that time. So the Moors influenced the national ballot. I mean, they influenced the ballot under their national capacity and basically got Oscar the Priest elected to be a mayor. That's the background. But by this time, at this picture, he got bumped up from mayor to congressman. He's in attendance in a national convention under a Moorish jurisdiction. So this is why we say in previous meetings, this is government to government. This is government to government. This is the nationality of people that connect back to the empire. This is what Noble Drew Ali resurrected. And he's having government to government relations. That's what he's saying, oh, go to those that know law in the city hall. That's the right, all that type of lingo, because this is what nations do. Nations have diplomacy. They deal with other nations. So this is what was erected during Noble Drew Ali's tenure. For those that did not know the background about this picture, but may have seen this picture, whoever seen this picture for the first time, that's a little background. So add to the fact that he went to the Pan American Conference, he was given gifts by the president of Cuba. He's sitting in the seat of an ambassador representing the nationality of people. I keep these things in mind. No other quote unquote Black leader has ever been on the international level speaking as an ambassador, advocating for our people, like emperors, nobles, ambassadors do for their nation. Only people that have nationalities can represent a nation of people. All right. So I'm saying things like that for a reason, to let you know that he's the last person on record in these times to have national standards and actual remedy and recipe for our people's salvation. Everybody else was talking about just religion and I'm Black this and oh, that's domestic. There's nothing international about that. This is why he's not talked about in the public school. They don't want you getting inspired. I just want to highlight that. Drew Ali was out of town at the time as he was dealing with former Supreme Grand Governor Lomax Bey. who had supported Green Bay's attempt of a coup. When Drew Ali returned to Chicago, the police arrested him and other members of the community on suspicion of having instigated the killing. No indictment was sworn for Drew Ali at the time. So all these was the reason I like this because it showed you what Noble Drew Ali was facing. This was before the CIA. This is before the FBI. This is before COINTELPRO. This is before the United Nations. But he was infiltrated. You had members that wasn't loyal while he was alive. All these caveat emptors and all these hadiths of Noble Drew Ali, when you read his message, he warning you about people who's jealous of his fame and nobility. He letting you know that beware Moors is Moors that want to do their own thing and be the man and reap benefits off the potential of what we can do and misrepresent it while he was alive. He's seen the traitors. All right, so this is his perspective. So here's a newspaper clip. Noble Drew Ali was laid to rest in Burr Oak Cemetery. So shortly after his release by the police, Drew Ali died at 43. So obviously they did something to him while he was in jail to the point he couldn't, So just so you know what's going on. So Drew Ali died at 43 at his home in Chicago on July 20th, 1929. Although the exact circumstances of his death are unknown, right? Of course, they're going to say that. The certificate of death stated that Noble Drew Ali died from tuberculosis. Despite the official report, many of his followers speculated that his death was caused by injuries from the police or from other members of the faith. Others thought it was due to, how do you pronounce that? Pneumonia. One more told the Chicago Defender that the prophet was not ill. His work was done, and he laid his head upon the lap of one of his followers and passed out. His funeral took place on July 25th, 1929, with hundreds attending. The service was held at the Python Temple in Chicago, followed by the burial at Burr Oak Cemetery in nearby Alsip. So that's his tombstone. The death of Drew Ali brought out a number of candidates who vied to succeed him. So, all these people talking about they Noble Drew Ali reincarnated after his transition. Everybody, it's a split. It's a split in the movement. All right, so Edward Milliel stated that he had been declared Drew Ali's successor by Drew Ali himself. And when you look in the archive, you see that is who Noble Drew Ali expressed to be his successor. That's just what it is. But anyway, while John Gibbons L., Drew Ali's chauffeur, declared that he was Drew Ali reincarnated. However, the governors of the Moorish Science Temple of America declared Charles Kirkland Bay to be the successor to Drew Ali and named him Grand Advisor. So now we're getting into the intricacies of the split and how things start getting reduced and fractionalized. This was the beginning of it. So this is the Moorish Guide. This is Emiliel, the person that Noble Drew Ali intended to pass the keys down to. Whoever hasn't seen this brother. All right. Walid Farad Muhammad, the founder of the Nation of Islam, was previously a prominent member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, where he was known as David Ford L. After Drew Ali's death, he claimed to be the prophet reincarnated. When his leadership was largely rejected, he broke away from the Moorish Science Temple of America, moved to Detroit, and founded the Nation of Islam. Nation of Islam leaders denied any historical connection to the Moorish Science Temple of America until February 26, 2014, when Louis Farrakhan acknowledged Noble Drew Ali's contribution to the Nation of Islam. Competing factions developed among the congregations and leaders, especially after the death of the charismatic Ali. 3 independent organizations developed from this ferment: the founding of the Nation of Islam by Wallace Farrar Muhammad in 1930 also created competition for members. In the 1930s, membership was estimated at 30,000, with 1/3 in Chicago. During the post-war years, the Moorish Science Temple of America continued to increase membership, albeit at a slower rate. In 1986, the Moroccan ambassador to the United States officially recognized the Moorish Science Temple's Islamic linkage to Morocco through Drew Ali. And whoever's not familiar with that, it was a letter written by an ambassador, King Hassan, from the Kingdom of Morocco, basically stating that this goes back to time immemorial, because we're talking empire, you know. And even though they're called the Kingdom of Morocco, which is a French protectorate jurisdiction over there, they're still writing a letter on and expressing why they're honoring Noble Drew Ali's solar return. Because there was a letter, at this time in 1986, the letter was written on his solar return. And they were celebrating Noble Drew Ali, the Moroccans over there. And in the letter, they're expressing why, and essentially it's saying like, look, these people that are thinking they Black, they got to understand it's deeper than that. And the king over there was saying that we have a link to the Americas by way of the empire. And essentially this is the headquarters over here. So I'm just giving a little backdrop on that. All right, so continuing, during the 1940s, the Moorish Science Temple, specifically the Kirkland Bay faction, came to the attention of the FBI, who investigated claims of members committing subversive activities by adhering to and spreading the Japanese propaganda. The investigation failed to find any substantial evidence, and the investigations were dropped. The federal agency later investigated the organization in 1953 for violation of the Selective Services Act of 1948. That's interesting. So the Selective Services is the, not going off to war. I mean, are you going to get drafted or not, or that type of stuff. That's interesting. I've been dealing with that lately. That brought to my attention. That's divine right there. That's crazy. In September 1953, the Department of Justice determined that prosecution was not warranted for the alleged violations. The file that the FBI created on the temple grew to 3,117 pages during its lifetime. They never found any evidence of any connection or such sympathy of the temple's members for Japan. So, during Noble Drew Ali's tenure, he had members of the temple that was from Japan, Vietnam, and he was an ambassador. So he talking about Tartary and the Shoguns and Kingdom of Champa. That's where his mind was at when there was Moorish sultans over there. So he had a lot of support internationally. But of course, you see what happened, what it got reduced to.
Wait, so they wanted, so they investigated because they wanted people to join the military?
No. They're saying that these more see, they were trying to just come up with stuff to create a division in the movement, the FBI, and well, back then it wasn't FBI, but whatever's equivalent to the FBI back then or the CIA, they're trying to slow the movement down and fractionalize it or come up with some charges like, oh, we can get them on this, and then start flipping people. Because once you get somebody on some, oh, we can get you for this, just give me some information, or
Oh, for intel.
yeah, or go back to the temple and act like this and say and just to create a divide.
Mm.
It shakes things up a little bit. All right. So they were trying to put charges on some people, but oh, y'all not going to the draft? Y'all not participating in going to war? You gotta get drafted. But the reason, obviously, because these weren't U.S. citizens.
Mm-hmm.
This is a whole nother jurisdiction, and ideally, they don't want that. So trumped up charges, just like how they
Fred Hampton.
Yeah, Fred Hampton, but even Noble Joe Ali, he ultimately got arrested on trumped up charges. And then they did whatever they did to him while he was in there, but he got released and wasn't charged for nothing. It was found he didn't do nothing wrong, but he come out all messed up. So this is what I'm talking about. They had to stoop to that because it was powerful. Um, so this is a picture of Sultan Abdul Aziz. He's on the interface, one of the interfaces of the Circle Seven. And it's a reason for that, the relationship. And back to empire, we're talking about sultans, right? So this is where Noble Joe Ali mind was at, empire, international. All right, so this is Sultan Abdul Aziz Ibn Suwad. He was the first monarch and founder of Saudi Arabia, the third Saudi state. He was a ruler of the whole kingdom of Saudi Arabia from September 23rd, 1932 to November 9th, 1953, but started to be ruler in parts of it as early as 1902. He conquered his family's ancestral home, city of Riyadh, in 1902, starting 3 decades of conquest that made him the ruler of nearly all of Central and North Arabia, including Mecca and Medina. He consolidated his control over Najd in 1922. He conquered Hejaz in 1925. He extended his dominions into what later became the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in 1932. As king, he presided over the discovery of petroleum or oil in Saudi America in 1938 and the beginning of the large-scale oil production after World War II. He fathered many children, including 45 sons. All of the subsequent kingdoms, all of the subsequent kings of Saudi Arabia. So basically, his sons, became prince and ultimately took over. So I like that introductory, or that this particular Circle Seven, whoever published this one. I like the information that was in it prior to getting into it. So I wanted to share that. This is still Noble Joe Ali birthright season, so I was compelled to go through this measure today. So as we transition, right, know thyself. We went into the front cover of Circle Seven is ultimately an expression of that. That's a know thyself expression. All right, but what I wanted to highlight for today's particular demonstration is chapter 3. Yeah, chapter 3, Eliel's lessons, the unity of life. Again, Elilu met his pupils in the sacred grove and said, no man lives unto himself, for every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will love and demand and not demand love in return. They will not do to other men what they will not have other men do unto them. There are two selves, the higher self and lower self. The higher self is human spirit clothed in soul, made in the form of Allah. The lower self, the carnal self, the body of desires, is a reflection of higher self distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. The lower self is an illusion and will pass away. The higher self is Allah man and will not pass away. The higher self is the embodiment of truth. The lower self is truth reversed, and so is falsehood manifest. The higher self is justice, mercy, love, and right. The lower self is what the higher self is not. Okay, so these principles are universal principles that you'll see across a lot of different cultures. Moorish Americans honor all true and divine prophets, including Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius. So, if this is the case, it will behoove you to study Yeshua, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius. If Noble Joe Ali is making these statements, it will make sense to do a comparative analysis. Not only study these people individually, but after you study them individually, put it all together and see the commonalities. Are they saying the same thing, or is it a difference? Or right, more is science. We're taking data, right? Analysis. That's a scientific perspective. All right, so Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. Let's get into Buddha, speaking on higher self, right? Because we just, Noble Joe Ali, Divinely Prepared, Circle 7, Quran, we just read about the higher self and lower self. Let's hear what Buddha has to say, or the principles of Buddha in general, speaking on higher self. Buddha's teaching on the higher self were deeply rooted in the concepts of anatta, non-self, which is the central Buddhist doctrine that there is no unchanging permanent self. This teaching encourages individuals to recognize that all phenomena are impermanent and not self, leading to a state of liberation and non-attachment. The higher self in this context is not a fixed identity, but rather a state of awareness and interconnectedness with the universe. It is a journey of self-discovery and enlightenment where one learns to let go of the illusion of a permanent self and embrace the transient nature of existence. Right? So we're connected to the universe, as above, so below. Just because you have a carnal experience in you in the flesh, you're supposed to connect with the universe and its laws of the universe. The universe has laws, hermetic principles. The fact that you inhaling and exhaling, that's a law. You need H2O to live. That's a law. If these laws are violated, you will perish. You will no longer be living if you stop breathing. It's not a belief. All right, so that's Buddha speaking on the higher self. All right, so let's go to Confucius. This was the prophet. We honor all prophets, and then he highlighted some. It's more prophets than the ones he named, obviously, but he bullet pointed. All right, so let's look at Confucius speaking on higher self. Confucius quotes on the higher self often emphasize the importance of self-reflection. Noble Joe Ali said reflection is the business of man. You got to reflect to understand yourself. Humility in the pursuit of virtue. Here are some quotable quotes that reflect these names or these themes. A man who does not think and plan ahead will find trouble right at his door. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig two graves. Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. So you only really know something when you humble yourself to know that you don't know that much. Now you're on the path to wisdom. The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute. The man who does not ask is a fool for life. These quotes encourage individuals to seek wisdom, cultivate virtue, and maintain a sense of humility in their pursuit of personal growth and enlightenment. They serve as a reminder that the journey to understand one's life and the world is a continuous process of learning and self-discovery. So you're always gonna be a student. Study, study, study. Because you're always changing. You're always evolving. You have to comprehend who you are at the moment. Nobody's stagnant, or you're not supposed to be. So as you evolve into this new person that you've, based on your experiences, understand and process who I am. Like, okay, this is who I am now. So and move accordingly. All right, so let's move to Jesus or Yahshua. What's his views on higher self? This is all the people Noble Drew Ali pointed out. Jesus views the higher self as a guiding force that helps individuals reach their spiritual potential. He teaches that the higher self is the true light and truth, which guides individuals towards their higher consciousness and divine presence. Jesus' teachings emphasize the importance of recognizing and nurturing the higher self for personal growth and ethical living. The higher self is seen as a guide for self-improvement and ethical living, representing the spiritual aspirations and noble desires of individuals. So I wanted to speak on that from that perspective, from this lens for today's demonstration. I do want to open the floor for any thoughts, comments on anything that was talked about, the prophets that Noble Jew Ali highlighted, the passage that I read about Noble Jew Ali, the timeline that we went through, or any thoughts in general. I just want to hear from the people. Yeah, the floor is open.
Islam.
Islam, Brother Ronald Jones Bay, Islam.
Islam, first and foremost, I rise on 7, giving perfect praise and adoration to Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, giving the highest of honors available to our illustrious Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us the Moorish Science Temple of America, divine constitution and bylaws, Islam. Let's do our Circle 7, Islam, our questionnaire, additional laws, everything that he brought us, Islam. Praise Allah for Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Also extended honors to Marcus Mosiah Garvey for demonstrating the measure that he did. He steered up the nation, Islam. He steered up the nations, Islam. And he got us to think, and think and think and think. And we started thinking we could save ourselves, Islam. He also demonstrated that the so-called Negro needed a nationality of his own because the so-called Negro did not have a nationality of his own. He knew that. He also knew that the so-called Negro needed to return Islam, return to his father God Allah. So you hear the demonstration of one's converting Islam. But what about reverting Islam? In cosmetology, you know, you could press somebody here with a hot comb, you could change the structure of Islam. However, when the water hits the demonstration, it reverts back to the natural state. Prophet Noble Israeli said he was going to be the water and the fire, Islam. So imagine we got a perm put on us and they try to straighten us out, Islam. However, Prophet Noble Israeli is the water. Water not going to revert. A perm, Islam. So if they did try to put a perm on us, it was a weak perm, Islam. It was a weak demonstration. So praise Allah for Marcus Mosaic Garvey and his works, Islam. I would like to also extend honors to the first Supreme Grand Sheikh of the Moorish Temple of America, known as the Prophet's Choice, Islam, Edward Emile Ill, for demonstrating his measure to the capacity that he could, Islam, at the time. I would like to also extend honors to all leaders of the Moorish Temple of America, Islam, and leaders of every other Moorish group, Islam, that lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and is known before their members, Islam. Praise Allah. Honors to the members of the Moorish Temple of America, and honors to the members and the participants and the visitors of Khalifa Society, Islam. Praise Allah for Grand Sheikh Mafia for having this meeting, Islam. Islam. Um, the demonstration on Prophet Noble Ali, you know, it was said that, you know, the police did take him to jail for the murder of Claude Greenell, Islam. However, Prophet Noble Ali was not in town during that demonstration, Islam, so they released him. It's kind of unsure and certain what happened. You know, members could beat him up because he had haters, Islam. It is a fact that Fard Muhammad was a member of the Moorish Temple of America, especially Elijah Poole, who was a coal miner at the time, Islam. And Prophet Noble Israeli assisted him in his health to get his lungs a little better, Islam. This is the reason why Elijah Muhammad had that breathing problem his whole life. After, you know, in his later part of his life, Islam. Um, it was a good demonstration that Cosmo Ill had. We had a discussion with the brother from Nation of Islam. Um, you know, a lot of people don't know about Prophet Noble Israeli because they try to sweep him under the rug. His feet too big, Islam. Hands too big. And he had a nice brain. So it's impossible to sweep something like that under the rug, Islam. You sweep something like that under the rug, people gonna trip over. They gonna notice it, Islam. So praise Allah for us, Moors noticing that demonstration. Also, I wanted to touch on the demonstration of how immediately ill got into the position to have the sort of say so over the movement Islam under the INC demonstration. When Edward Mealy Ill and Mealy Ill was going back and forth to court Islam, um, Mealy Ill would have won that case. However, when you don't show up to court, you lose by default Islam. So unfortunately, the Mo didn't go to court because he couldn't go to court because it was said that he had got poisoned by his wife, Islam. So whatever the case, we know that if you're going to court for something that important, you're going to show up, Islam. And there's only a certain circumstance that is not going to allow you to go to court, Islam. So this is, you know, part of the demonstration of what happened. However, the demonstration of the split is an intricate demonstration, but you know, in the Circle 7, it says that a charter is waiting for you, Islam, if you could, you know, demonstrate that measure. So regardless of the split, we're supposed to protect the temple and the prophet, Islam. So we have an obligation. You know, once you learn something, it's hard to forget it, Islam. So praise Allah for all of the Moors that keep the doors open, that's teaching according to the prophet's demonstration, Islam, and linking themselves with the families and nations, and also uniting the Moorish Temple of America. No matter the grand body, the work is what's important. So long as we could continue doing the work and linking ourselves with different Moorish Science Temple of America and different Moorish groups, Islam will be galvanized, and uh we'll have enough energy, we'll have enough resources, Islam, and we'll have enough of the situation going on that it manifests what Prophet Noble Israeli vision for us, Islam. Um, yeah, just a lot, Islam. But I just want to touch on that. Islam, beautiful demonstration. And with that, I yield the floor. Islam Morris.
Anybody else have any thoughts? That was some insight.
Islam, I do. So my insight on that was before it was called Moorish Science of America, it was called the Canaanite Temple.
Okay, that
The
temple.
old Canaanite temple, right?
Mm.
And I remember seeing somewhere in the Quran, speaking of the Canaanites, right? And so I guess like making that connection of like pretty much how things have evolved over time and then the split, right? And I know Marcus Garvey was in the picture. He inherited Marcus Garvey's followers, right? Is that how that went?
Essentially, yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so I started to think about there's a book I've been kind of reading through called The Black Races, but it's by Ho Chi Minh, air quotes. Um, it's essays that Ho Chi Minh, he was a Vietnamese nationalist, and during that time, he was writing a lot of essays like in French because Vietnamese people were colonized by the French around that time, so that's the language they were speaking. And in this book and his essays, he was speaking on pretty much how our people were being colonized and how that actually got into, before we know the history or we're learning about the history before slavery, but he's talking about the time, okay, what happened during slavery? What was he seeing? Right? And how it was similar to the people of what was going on in Vietnam, which isn't really talked about. And what I know is that Ho Chi Minh was attending Marcus Garvey's meetings, right? So there's a connection there, and how the Vietnamese nationalists were trying to also free themselves from this colonization that was going on. And it's very personal to me because I've just learned recently within my family dynamic that the time my grandma was alive, when she was giving birth to my mom, she was under a curfew and time, because if you were out past a certain time, you're getting thrown in jail. And Ho Chi Minh's
During the Vietnam War.
during the Vietnam War time, yeah, if you're out past the curfew, you're thrown in jail. And so while she was pregnant, she had to make sure that she went to the hospital like by a certain time and she was just trying to figure it out. Like, how am I gonna not get in trouble and like have this baby, which is my mom. And so that's how it's personal to me. And then also in the Ho Chi Minh book, what I was reading is that during that time, during the colonization, they had to walk around with lanterns at night. If you didn't have a lantern, they would throw you in jail because you're not identifiable, right? So a lot of this colonization and things that I'm seeing a lot of connections here and what's happened to the masses of our people and how there's a divide and conquer kind of tactic. And actually, the Vietnamese language is influenced by the French, right? The alphabet and everything was from the French. So the previous language was Khmer, right? And that's it's right next to Vietnam's right next to Cambodia. So that was the language, right? And so we keep going back to what was the original language, right? And it's Sanskrit before that.
And I want to add in while you're on that tip, when you look up she said Khmer, you look up the kingdom of Ankar or kingdom of Khmer, that's an empire that has sultans, fez and turbaned up in this area. I'm going to add that to that, but go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So I guess as I'm kind of learning about how things have been divided and how there's been a lot of infiltration and things like that, they named Ho Chi Minh as a communist, right? They named him as this horrible guy that did all these horrible things. But really, he was trying to free the people from colonization. He was like, why are they coming over here trying to mess with the people over here? You know? And what we have today is we have a bunch of Vietnamese people that came over from the homeland over to the Americas, and now we're US citizens. Now we're part of the system. Now people don't know their language. We're getting cut from our roots, right? Same story. Same story. So that's why I'm very drawn to this. And I didn't even know. It was energetically I was drawn to this and mafia and everything. But as I study and as I learn more about the history and what's really going on, um, I know why I'm here. So I just want to put that out there because, it's very deep. And some people, we don't realize all of our connections, right? And what's happened over time in history. But I just want to put that out there, not you.
Islam. Islam. Yeah, that was good. That was good stuff right there. Any other thoughts, comments, statements? Okay, so we have the Treasury report, and then Nell is going to give a demonstration on the land auction because there were more that want to know just how to operate it and what that looks like, because you might have more that want to do something on a personal level and just know the logistics. So she'll do a lightweight demonstration on that as well. Okay. So for January, we have the Treasury report for this month. We have Shriel 45, R. Jones Bay 100, 9L 100, Mafiel. I put in $83 this month. I fundraised $40, and I put in personally 43. Roland Bay put in 20. So we have the total for this month, $348, with a grand total of $4,265 in our land trust treasury. Since we're talking about that, we have an auction coming up in April. You wanted to go into your measure first, and then we about the how to look for land. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah, I can get into that.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, did you want to keep this recorded?
Yeah, we can stop it.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I know you should kind of stop.